Now, guys, I wanted to start today with a little bit of a pop quiz. Okay, number 2 pencils out, Scantrons, please. Okay, we're doing this right now in the room. I want to see how much car knowledge our church has. I want to see how good we are with cars, okay? So here's an image on the screen right here. These are 12 of the more common dashboard indicator lights you'll see in your car. So I want you to count right now. Out of the 12, how many of those do you know? If that popped up in your car, you know what that would mean. Get your number. Okay, my number was 8. Can anybody lower than 8? You're like, I don't even know any of those. That's what my husband's for, Brian. Anybody 12? I got 12 people in the room? My mechanics? Okay, my car guys, I see you. Now, when we're talking about just dashboard lights, I'll tell you guys, they stress me out. I hate dashboard lights. I got hit by somebody on I-25 a few years ago, and my air pressure sensor is broken in my car. So every time I get in my car, apparently there's something wrong with my air pressure, but I don't know because it's just broken. But then Nicole, her car just had the check engine light go on the other day. My father-in-law gave me this device where you could plug it into the car, and so it's spitting out all these codes of all the horrible apocalyptic things that are about to happen to her car if we don't get it fixed for $10,000 immediately. But as much as like the dashboard lights stress me out, I hate when those things go on, I will admit they are very useful. Because dashboard lights, they reveal something to you that you may not be able to see about your own car. And now I want to have some fun with this. Let's pretend for a second that you had a dashboard for your life right now. It's just right in front of you as you're going about life. What lights do you think would be flashing for your own life right now? Would you have any warning lights going off? Any yellows, like you should probably look into this soon. Would anybody have any red lights maybe going off for your life dashboard? And I say all that to set us up where we're going today, because we're in week 2 now, everybody, of a series we started last week. We are calling Fresh Fire, baby. And I tell you, sermon series are like kids. You don't have favorites, but you actually do. Parents, you know what I'm talking about. And so this is a personal favorite of mine, because here's the whole point of this series, guys. The whole point is God made you to be on fire when it comes to your spiritual life. And we get this idea from this one single verse. This is our rally cry verse for the whole series. Paul says this: never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving the Lord. And I promise I don't say this all the time, guys. If you did miss last week, I would highly recommend that you go back and listen to or watch it. Not because the sermon was good. That's actually not why I'm telling you to do it. Because it just lays a foundation for this entire series, and it'll just give you so much more context. But if you're new today, you're jumping in, you missed, it's all good. Let me give you just a very, very quick review. Zeal here can be translated as fully engaged. So it's this idea of conviction and resolve regardless of your circumstances. And then fervor there is literally translated boiling point. So it means to bubble over with just this heat and this vigor. So God's desired default mode for you is that you would have this sustained spiritual energy and vitality in your life. And the reason this is so important is this fire is the fuel for your life. You have to have this if you are going to be able to go the distance that God is calling you to in your own life. This is the engine of your life, and you need fuel for it. So today, I want to take things just one layer deeper. We're going into the rabbit hole today, everybody. Can you handle this? Are you ready for tinfoil hats? So we're doing this thing today. I want to take it a level deeper. Why does God care so much about this in particular? Why is this such a big deal to him? Why would he go as far as to say, never be missing this? You must have this. And then why should this be so important to us? Well, the last book in the Bible is actually called Revelation. And Jesus, at one point in this letter, is speaking to some churches that were going on in the first century. He's basically giving them a performance review. And what happens here is Jesus speaks to one church in particular in this city called Laodicea. This was Roman Empire. This is modern day Turkey. Now look what Jesus has to say to this one particular church. I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were one or the other. But since you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth. Now, Jesus here is actually using some cultural context for this illustration. So, Laodicea, they didn't have their own natural water resources. So they had to pipe in water through an aqueduct system from these distant springs. And they were famous for this because by the time the water got to Laodicea, it was lukewarm, it was tepid, and it was known to taste nasty. Now, here's what Jesus is saying. Your spiritual life tastes to me like your water tastes to you. Now, some scholars, they actually believe when Jesus says, I wish you were cold or hot, he's just emphasizing like extreme temperatures. He's like, I just want you to have some temperature. Both are good. Others would argue, this would be my position, not a hill to die on, would be that Jesus is saying, man, I wish you were at least cold toward me because I can at least work with that temperature. But here's what we can say for certain. There's one temperature God hates. God hates lukewarm faith. Now, it is January in Colorado, guys. We've been a little spoiled, haven't we? It's been 60 and sunny. Some of you guys were whining about yesterday because it was like 40, okay? Y'all been spoiled. We haven't had a cold day yet. Let's pretend we actually got a cold day here, though, in Colorado. It's probably coming back with a vengeance in February. Who are some coffee drinkers in here? I got my coffee people in the house? Yeah, okay. Now, the coffee people in the room, on that cold day, there is nothing like that warm cup of coffee, right? Oh my goodness, you see the steam coming out, you just have it in your hands, you can feel it. Nicole is the coffee drinker in our family, so she loves her morning cup of coffee. And we've had a few coffee makers at different points in our lives. I have never seen a single coffee maker that we've owned that's had a button on it that says lukewarm. I've never seen a button on Nicole's coffee maker that says room temperature coffee. Because there's not a single coffee drinker in this room where you're like, you know what I'm craving right now? Just a nice little room temperature coffee. And what we see here is God doesn't like the taste of lukewarm faith. It's nasty to him. He says, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. So he's like, I took a taste of your spiritual life and it's given me a gag reflex. Now, there's other places in the Bible where God kind of talks about how he feels about this whole lukewarm thing. Look what Hosea 7 says. This is God speaking. The people of Israel are as worthless as a half-baked cake. Now, this is one of my new favorite put-downs from God in the Bible. It's one of my new favorites when I found that one. I loved it because I think this shows that God likes cake. I think God likes cake, and I like cake, so that makes me happy. Now, do you see what God is saying here? He's saying your soul is like a half-cooked cake. It's got blobs of baking powder still in it. The eggs aren't even fully cooked. This is gross. You don't have enough heat in your life to even cook a cake. Now, look at Jeremiah 48. It says, cursed is he who does the work of the Lord with slackness. This is not a temperature reference, but you see what God's saying. He's saying, I don't like this whole just kind of loosey-goosey, lazy attitude that you have toward me. And one more, God says in Isaiah, these people come near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. And so God's saying, you're just kind of going through the motions with this thing. There's no real passion. I'm not feeling any heat. It's lukewarm, tepid coffee. So here's what's clear. God is bothered by room temperature faith. He's bothered by it. And we kind of get why. If you don't have passion in your life, you're not going to give your full self to whatever it is. You need that to kind of motivate you. But let's stop for a minute. Think about how we often talk about our spiritual lives. So sometimes when you're talking to people, you'll hear things like, man, I'm just not really feeling it right now. Or maybe you'll hear, yeah, I've been kind of in and out of church. I just haven't been that consistent. Or, man, it's been a while since I've cracked a Bible open or even just kind of done some prayer. And here's what you'll notice. Oftentimes, we talk about our spiritual lives very casually. So we talk about our faith like we talk about broccoli. It's like, yeah, I probably should eat more, but I'm also probably not going to. And honestly, I'll probably live. It's not that big of a deal. But what is God saying? He's like, no, hold on. The dashboard lights of your life are flashing. Warning, warning, warning. Now, I want to take this one more layer deeper. I said we're going rabbit hole today. I want us to really understand this. Why is lukewarm so dangerous? Why is this such a problem for God? Because again, lukewarm, it's a dashboard indicator. Okay, it's revealing something about our lives that we don't always recognize. And the first thing that lukewarm is indicating to us, if this is happening in our lives, is I am not seeing clearly. There was a video that started circulating last year. These two guys were at a sporting event. And at this sporting event, they got after it a little bit. They were getting in each other's faces. And let's be honest, that guy without the hat, he looks like he can handle himself, doesn't he? Like, that's probably a dude you don't want to mess with. And so what you don't hear in this video, though, is people are shouting, Google the guy in the blue hat. Google him. But if you saw how that video ended, it looked like blue hat guy lost, didn't it? He kind of had to walk away with his tail between his legs. Well, here's the thing. What that man without the hat did not see is that dude in the blue hat who walked away was Misael Chino Rodriguez, one of the best boxers on planet Earth. He's undefeated. He's an Olympic medalist, and he has pummeled every person he has ever fought into a fine dust. Now, I'm willing to guess that if that dude without the hat knew who he was talking to, he probably would have changed his tone just a little bit. He probably wouldn't have had his face so close. How do you see God? How do you see him? We do a pretty good job of talking about certain attributes of God. So we talk about his love and his grace and his goodness, and we should, by the way. That is very important. But sometimes what you'll notice is we kind of treat God like some guy in a blue hat. Got a very casual attitude towards him. And yet there are other attributes and dimensions of God's character that we sometimes do not emphasize enough or recognize. Things like his majesty, his glory, his power, and his holiness. You know, there is a verse in the Bible that says, our God is a consuming fire. So there is a side to God that is far from sentimental. You look at people who even just get a glimpse of God, they are knocked on their face pleading for mercy. Because you cannot have a genuine encounter with God and just remain casual. You cannot come face to face with the God of the universe and just not have your temperature impacted. And we sometimes go around our lives with just this lukewarm, nonchalant, man in a blue hat attitude toward God. And what that means is we're not seeing clearly. Something is wrong with our eyes. We're not reading the dashboard properly when it comes to our own life. But there's another reason why this lukewarm thing is actually really dangerous. Again, it's an indicator for your life. And it's really this. It's revealing that I am becoming more distant. There is one dynamic about social relationships that I honestly find very fascinating. It's the fact that you can be in absolute close proximity with another person. You can actually live with them, share the same fridge. Sometimes you can even share the same bed with this person and yet still feel like you're living on different continents. And that is so strange to me that you can be so close to someone but still feel so far apart. And this is exactly what God meant when he said, oh yeah, you know how to honor me with your lips, but what does he say? Your hearts are far from me. And so God's like, oh yeah, you know how to check the boxes. You're going to church, you're doing all the things, but he's like, we don't have a real connection. There's not a real relationship here. We might as well be in different countries. And so if the spiritual temperature in your life is cooling, it's an indicator that there is a growing distance between you and God. And if anybody in here has learned like I have, when that starts to happen, that does not end well. And so this is just what we need to see. God takes this spiritual temperature thing very seriously. Because this fire in your soul is an indicator of what your relationship with him is really like, how your life is really going. It's the fuel for the engine. And now, guys, it's a new year. Come on, fresh starts, resolutions, all the things. I feel like this is a really good opportunity for us to maybe do our own little performance review, like Jesus did for that church. I would love for us to ask ourselves this question. Right now, just at this moment in your life, what is my current spiritual temperature? What is your current spiritual temperature right in this moment? What did Paul say in Romans 12? Keep your spiritual fervor. Now, what does fervor mean? Boy, but y'all have been listening. First service, they stink at this stuff, guys, okay? You guys are way more spiritual than they are. Now, for any of the cooks in the room, maybe you guys know as my science people, what temperature does water start to boil at? Does anybody know the exact temperature? 212, okay. Some of you guys know this. Now, this is just kind of to help us. This is just a simple tool to help us, just to get us thinking. Let's say we had a thermometer for our spiritual lives right now. You have a spiritual thermometer. There it is. And we just found out that boiling is 212 degrees. So let's just say, right at the top, that's boiling. So that's God's standard. That's where he wants us to be when it comes to our spiritual lives. But let's say under that, let's just say we have like warm-ish, okay, 100 to 211. Now, you're not boiling. There's a little bit of heat. It's not where God wants you to be. You're not going to make a cake with it. But let's go a little lower and say this is lukewarm, 33.99. This is where God's gag reflex gets induced. He doesn't like that. Now, even lower, let's just say there's even this where it's just cold. Some of that distance is starting to happen. Now, I want us to even ask today, right now, this phase of your life, where are you? What temperature range do you think you fall into? And before anybody starts beating themselves up because you're like, Brian, I am way down on this thing. Can we have a moment of honesty? Every single one of us in here falls below boiling at different times in our lives. Do we not? Guys, this is a battle. This is hard to do. This is why Paul says, keep your spiritual boiling point, because it's hard. It's hard for every single one of us. The temperature is always fluctuating. And so for anybody in here, if you fall below boiling, but even if you do think you're at that boiling spot, I want to really help us today to maybe recognize why this might be happening. So I want to spend a few minutes here to talk about why the fire fades. What are some of the reasons for why we just lose that passion? Why do we sometimes just cool off when it comes to our relationship with God? And for these next couple points, my goal is actually to be way more clear than cute. So I don't have cool phrases or they don't all start with the same letter. I'm just going to say exactly what it is in one word to make it as easy as possible. What is one of the first, most obvious causes of the fire of your soul starting to fade? Very simply, it is sin. So Paul, in 1 Thessalonians, this is the New Testament, he says this, do not quench the Spirit. Now that's capital S Spirit. This is the Spirit of God we're talking about. And so many times, the image for God's Spirit in the Bible is fire. So you look at Acts 2, when the Spirit first comes down on the church, they see it in this image of fire. Look at John the Baptist in Matthew 3 talking about Jesus. He will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and fire. This is Jesus talking in Luke 12. He says, I have come to bring fire on the earth. So the presence of God always produces heat. Whenever God shows up, the temperature is going to start going up. But this is what's so fascinating then about this verse. Do not quench the Spirit. Quench is literally translated to put out a fire. That's literally what that means. And so this is what Paul's saying. There are things we do that pours water all over the fire that God's trying to start in our lives. I spent some years working with college students in ministry, and that's kind of a fun age group because not only do you provide ministry services, you also provide dating services when you work with that age group. And so it was inevitable. Whenever a new ministry cycle would start, all the guys would start meeting up with some of the girls, and all these relationships would start. Some of them even became marriages, which was really cool. But I noticed a pattern. I noticed this. Couples would start to form, and I would sometimes notice that these couples would just start to not be around as much. They'd just start getting a little more flaky, less responsive, just wouldn't be as engaged. And so I would reach out to some of them and just be like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? And I would start hearing some of those lines. Oh man, we're just not really feeling it right now. Yeah, we've been kind of in and out of church. Yeah, it's been a while. And I finally learned the question I needed to ask. If I knew these couples well enough, I would say, so, how long have you guys been sleeping together? Y'all are cringing right now. You're like, oh, dear Lord. I'm glad you didn't ask me that when I was in college. But here's why. Here's why I would sometimes lean in with that question. I learned this. There is a direct correlation between spiritual temperature and sin. And, we think about sin so often, it's like that icky word, right? Those are all the things God doesn't want you to do. That's correct, actually. And yes, sin is violating God's will, but I want you to see it in a different way. You know what sin also is, though? It's pouring water on God's fire in your life. Because you cannot stoke the fire of God in your life when you are jumping into the ocean of sin. And so Paul says you just have to be very aware that there may be things you're doing that are quenching the very fire of God in your life. So sin is one of them, but let's do another one. This might be a little less obvious. Very common reason for why fire fades for people is simply laziness. Now it's 2026, January still. This is the time of the year where everybody decides they are going to get jacked. This is that time of the year, right? This is the six-pack abs month. And I'm going to sound very judgy right now when I say this, but hey, it just is what it is. I hate January at the gym. It's the worst month, by far. But I'm just going to be honest with you guys, I can't help but do this mental exercise right now during this month. I see all these new people just flooding the gym, and I play a little game with myself. I'll look over at a guy on some machine, and I'll be like, 5 weeks, tops. Tops. I'll go see another lady trying to do something, and I'll be like, 2 weeks, maybe. And then I'll definitely see another guy. This just happened. I was like, this is the last time I will ever see that gentleman in a gym in his entire life. But this is why. It's not because I'm trying to be mean. It's because it is hard to sustain anything in your life. Have you not noticed that? Boy, it is hard to sustain physical health. It's hard to sustain a business if you're keeping that going. Guys, it's hard to sustain a marriage. Amen? It's hard to sustain your own soul. That is an uphill battle in your life. Look what Hebrews says in the New Testament. We must pay the most careful attention, therefore, to what we've heard. That's the good news of Jesus, all the things, so that we do not drift away. So this is the greatest risk for you. It is not that your fire would just be put out in a single moment. That's actually not it. This is the risk. This is more dangerous. That over time, really just out of neglect, just a little bit of laziness, not even noticing it's happening, you slowly just start to see your fire fade. The heat just kind of starts to go down. to where sometimes without even seeing it, that fire just becomes a little pile of smoldering embers. And this is why Paul is so adamant, you must keep your spiritual fervor. This is an ongoing battle that you are going to have to fight. You're pushing against just your natural inclinations. And I hope this is actually an encouragement to some of us in here. Nobody is ever surprised when they don't want to work out. Are you ever shocked that you don't want to get up and run? I never want to do it, ever. I'm never in the mood for it. And we get that for physical exercise. We're like, yeah, but that's part of it. You just have to push through. But for whatever reason in our faith, we are shocked when we're not in the mood for it. Like, oh man, I just don't feel like going to church. I guess I'm just not supposed to go because I'm supposed to be in the mood if I'm going to go to church. Or like, man, I don't really want to read the Bible. I guess like something must be broken. I guess I should just stop reading it altogether. No, you got to understand this right now. You are many times in your life not going to feel like spiritually exercising. You're not going to want to do it. And instead of being surprised by that, just accept that. You're human. It's just what it is. But as you push against that natural spiritual laziness, that's where you start to see the heat. You got to push against it. Now let me do one more here. And I think this one is the most dangerous because it's the hardest to see. And it's one that I think is very pertinent to us. One other reason why you'll sometimes see fire fade in your life is because of comfort. Now, Christmas of 2024, Nicole got a Christmas present. This is actually the exact present Nicole got in 2024. She got a heated blanket. Now, can I tell you guys exactly how I responded when I saw her get this present? I said, that is the dumbest present I have ever seen in my entire life. Yes, I got booed in first service too. I hear all those boos. Now, can you hear my story first? Let me tell my story. Nicole gets this blanket, and I'm like, stupid. Never gonna use that. I'm like, blankets are already warm. Why do you need to heat a blanket? How dumb is this invention? And so I think I hurt Nicole's feelings or something because it stayed in the box for weeks. We never touched it. And I still remember that following year, it was a cold February day, and I said, you know what, I wonder where that blanket's at. And I pulled it out of the box. I said, oh my goodness, like it's got a cord. Wait, you can plug this thing in? I was like, let me just kind of see, okay. And then I was like, wait, hold on just a second. This thing has multiple heat settings. I can choose how hot I want to make it. And then I just kind of went, I'm just going to kind of see. And I kid you not, 15 minutes in, I was like, I'm gonna die right here on this couch with this blanket. I'm dying, dude, don't you dare touch this thing. And you will see me most of the nights at my house in this blanket on my couch. It's my best friend. And this is the funniest thing about comfort, man. The minute you start feeling comfortable, you don't want to move. You want to settle right in there and get nice and cozy, and that's right where you want to stay. Now, here's why this is so dangerous. And I don't want us to get any of the wrong ideas. Let me just say this first. There's nothing immoral about having some creature comforts in your life. Okay, I don't want you to mishear me. So you don't need to turn your thermostat down to 30 today. You don't need to walk for your commute downtown for your job tomorrow. That's not what I'm saying. But the Bible is very clear. Some of the comforts in our life do not have a natural heating effect on our souls. It's actually quite the opposite. So remember that church from Laodicea we were talking about? I'm going to spit you out of my mouth, church. Right after Jesus says that, he's got another criticism. Look what he says to him. You say, I'm rich. I've acquired wealth and do not need a thing. Now again, there's context here. Laodicea was a very wealthy city. Nice houses, nice cars, good schools, all the amenities. Like you wanted to live in Laodicea. That was the nice side of town. And I would say it's not totally unlike the north side of Denver. Can we just have a moment of honesty, guys? We don't have it too bad up here. I mean, it's pretty good living up here. Pretty safe for the most part. There's some pretty nice neighborhoods. A lot of us, you got a roof over your head. Some of us, it's a very nice roof. There's some very expensive roofs right around this church. And on top of that, we've got cars. Some of us, they're pretty nice cars. For a lot of us in here, real talk, we've got fun money, guys. You've got money for restaurants and travel and experiences and entertainment. There are a lot of comforts about living up here. But one of the most dangerous places to be spiritually is where all your needs are met. Because you don't even notice it sometimes, but in the back of your mind and in your heart, you're like, I don't even know if I really need God. Life's pretty good. But look what Jesus says to these comfortable people. But you do not realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. So Jesus is saying all those comforts that you have are making you numb and blind to your true spiritual condition. Because yes, you've got that nice, warm, comfortable blanket, but now you have settled into a way of life to where you've got no heat in your soul. And for some of us, what happens is you need that blanket of comfort ripped off your life for you to realize how cold you really are. So there's definitely other things that may cause our fire to fade, but I think that's enough for us now to get to this moment. I want us to ask an honest question right now. So just think about yourself. Am I doing anything that is causing my fire to fade? So if your life is below the boiling point right now, why? What's causing that? Why is your temperature dropping? And I get it, for some of us in here, if you're thinking about it right now, you might be thinking, well, yeah, Brian, actually, I don't know if it's so much what I'm doing, it's just work is really hard right now. Like, that's really the hard thing. Or the marriage stuff is really creating some issues for us. Or I'm just in a tough season right now. And I totally understand. There are external circumstances that can massively impact your fire. I get it. We'll talk about that. But I just have to press a little bit here. What does Paul say? Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor. So yes, it can be very hard to maintain your spiritual temperature, but if you are below the boiling point, you just have to take a hard look in the mirror and say, what am I doing that's contributing to this? So all of us, it's a battle. Temperature is always fluctuating, real talk, we know it. I want to flip the conversation now. Because yes, the fire fades at different times, but let's get constructive now. Let's talk about turning up the heat. Let's talk about what can we do to increase our spiritual temperature in our lives? What control do we actually have? Now, Jesus was talking to that church in Laodicea, gave them a performance review. There's another church Jesus talks to in Revelation as well. Let's see what he says to these people. He says, yet I hold this against you. You have forsaken the love you had at first. Consider how far you have fallen. Again, Jesus is saying you've lost the passion. You've lost the fire. There's no true love even in this relationship we have. You're going through the motions. It's kind of mechanical. Now, what would Jesus have to say to someone who's fallen into this trap? Well, look what Jesus says the prescription is. Repent and do the things you did at first. So repent just means to change direction. It means to turn around. And Jesus is being as practical, I think, as you could possibly be here. Because he's saying, okay, you've lost the passion, you've drifted some, here's what you should simply do. Just go back to the basics. You just got to go back to the basics. He said, do what you did at first. Now, Nicole and I, we've been married just long enough where, like, I feel like I can say, like, we're married. You know, like, we're in the decades range, you know, pretty comfortably now. And living in Colorado, we don't have any family nearby. There's Chicago and Florida. So we don't have like that easy in-law to just dump the kids off on or get free childcare or whatever. So sometimes we'll go a long time without like a good date or us time. You know, it's just what it is. I'm not complaining about it. And one time her mom came into town last year and was like, you know what, I want you guys to go do something nice. Go treat yourselves, you go on a date. So Nicole and I, we finally got some us time in a while. And to really, my shock, we looked at each other as we're out on this date and we're like, oh my goodness, we still like each other. Like, this is actually pretty cool. We're walking around holding hands, flirting, doing all sorts of inappropriate PDA around other people, making them uncomfortable. And it's like, man, all these years in, kids and all this stuff, we still like hanging out. This kind of works. And it's funny to me, though, because especially now, there are so many podcasts and books and websites and resources that are like, here's the silver bullet for a good marriage. Like, here's the answer. This is what you must have. And I love all that stuff. I think it's helpful. But sometimes when I'm talking to couples about this stuff, I almost feel like it sounds kind of lame because I'm like, you know what? You want a good marriage? You should probably have some quality time, communicate. You know, it really helps just to be nice to each other. That actually really helps in a marriage. And it's like, it's kind of basic stuff when you really look at it. And then I've noticed, though, we think the same way with faith, though. Because we're like, well, what's the new fad? What's like the cool new thing? Like, I need something that's going to blow my mind and get me really excited. And really, it's like, do you want to really get heat in your spiritual life? Do the basics. Meat and potatoes, Christianity. Because like even right now, top of the year, you'd say, yeah, I want to get my temperature up, Brian. Like, what should I do? What's the answer? And I would just say, okay, are you spending any meaningful time with God? No, but like really, in a way that heats your soul up. Are you reading the Bible at all? What does your prayer life look like? Like, do you even have the basics down? And I know people are like, well, I tried that, Brian, I did. Yeah, you tried it for 3 seconds and then you quit. Come on, let's just be honest, guys. And so I just want to encourage some people here. This is such a perfect time, new year. If you've just fallen out of some of the basics of just the faith, even today, I want to challenge you. Go to this website, newhills.church/resources. There is a whole library of Bible reading plans you can jump on, prayer guides, tools to help you kickstart your faith. And I'm telling you guys, don't try to turn this into a 4-hour-a-day like monk thing. 5-10 minutes a day. Just get started and just try to be consistent. And even if you miss a day, do not beat yourself up. Because here's what I can guarantee you. If you will just do the basics with any level of consistency, I guarantee you, you're going to see the temperature go up in your life. It's going to happen for you. So start with the basics. But the second thing, this is going to be more fun now. You're going to like this one better. If you want to get that temperature up, you have to figure out what feeds your fire. Figure out what feeds your fire. Now, Romans 12, let's go back to it. Paul says, keep your spiritual fervor. Okay, whose fire do you need to feed? Right? It's your fire. So, whose job is it? Right? So you are ultimately accountable for the spiritual temperature in your own life. And I just said a minute ago, there are absolutely universal basics that apply to all of us. You know, the very things that any person who wants to get their temperature up. But I'll also say this. There are some things that will heat your soul up in very unique ways that are just unique to you. I have found something that is almost foolproof for me. This is almost a guarantee if I do this. I'll notice that I'm just kind of drifting a little bit. Just kind of, the temperature's kind of going down. I'm losing some of the passion. Sometimes it's just a hard day, whatever it is. And what I've found, one of the best things for me to do is I'll be at home and I'll go down to my basement and I will find my drum set, everybody. Praise the Lord Jesus for that right there. Now, I know what you guys see in that picture. You see just a bunch of wood and metal. That's what you see. I see a sanctuary right there, okay? That is a house of worship right there in my basement. And here's why. For me, just being able to get down there and drum, and usually to some worship songs, having just that time to connect with God and worship in that way, I'll tell you guys, I don't know how to explain it. It just does something to my soul. 30 minutes at that drum set, and I feel just that passion coming back. And I have a guarantee for everybody in here. If you try and go and do that to help your spiritual life, it is not going to have the same effect for you, okay? Don't go out today and go buy a drum set. You're going to be like, what the heck was Brian talking about? This doesn't work at all. I hate this. Because you stink at drums. That's not your thing. But here's what I know for everybody in here. Some of us, you have a place. Man, you go to that place, just something happens to you. For other of us in here, there's a person. And you get them on the phone, you go have lunch with them, you leave always feeling just refreshed. Some of us in here, it really is. It's a practice. It's a hobby. It's something that you've just built into your life, and it just does something to your soul that doesn't work for other people. But I want to challenge you with this. This is not just what's fun. What do you enjoy doing? You have to ask, what feeds the fire? What turns the temperature up for you? Figure that out and do it. Now, I got one more, and we're going to close. Something you will notice that's going to happen to you as you on this journey with God. You are going to have seasons of your life where it just doesn't work. You're not going to be able to get that temperature up. You're going to be struggling. You're going to feel like you're stuck in that lukewarm. And if that's true of anybody in here, you're like, I just can't seem to get it going. I would really challenge you to do this. Force your fire. You have to force your fire. Now, here's what I mean by this. For every single person in here, the natural temperature that your soul is going to drift toward is lukewarm. That's the natural direction it's going to go into. And there's times of your life where you're going to struggle to get the temperature up, and that's when you need to get radical with yourself. You need to literally throw yourself out of your comfort zone so you can just kickstart this fire in your faith. And this is exactly, church, why we do our week of prayer and fasting. So next Sunday, we are launching this entire week where we as a church are going to get out of our comfort zone, and we are going to ignite some fresh fire in our lives. And this is not just prayer, it's also fasting. Because I'll tell you guys, fasting is one of the most potent ways to increase the spiritual temperature in your life. And we're going to talk all about this next Sunday. If I have any encouragement to you, please, if you can make it to church next week. We're going to have a special custom prayer guide for every single person in the church. We're going to walk through exactly what it looks like to go on this journey with God. I really believe it could be transformational for so many people in our church. And then next Wednesday, during that week of prayer and fasting, we're going to come right here in this room for our night of prayer and worship. So guys, we're going to take one night as a church to commit to God, to seek Him for some fresh fire. That's what this is all about. And I have a promise for you. This is going to happen to you next Wednesday. Let me just tell you how you're going to feel. It's going to be 5:30, maybe 6. And you're going to go, I don't think I want to go. I know it's Wednesday, but it feels like Friday, and I'm really tired, and I have to catch up on Stranger Things on Netflix, and so I've just got things to do. I just don't think I can make it. And I need to push on you guys right now. Nobody said that this fire thing was going to be comfortable or convenient. Okay? Nobody ever promised us that you're going to feel like doing this. And guys, you just got to understand, we don't do this because we feel like it. We do it because we need it. That's why we do it. And so can I just challenge you, just next Wednesday say, I've got the time. I'm making the time. I need this more than I even realize. And then we're going to finish everything off, guys, once we get to February with a baptism Sunday. And the reason I mention this one is, guys, one of the best ways to ignite fire in your spiritual life, it's very simple. Obey God. And for some of us in here, you've taken that step of faith towards Jesus. You trust Him, but you've never gone public in your faith and really said, I'm giving Jesus everything. This is the step God calls us to make. And I'm telling you guys, when you take steps of obedience, God ignites your life with fire. But as we close today, everybody, I just need you to understand, this is your soul we are talking about. Guys, this is the engine of your life. And there is nothing more important than you getting and sustaining this fire. You need this. You're not going to make it without this. You have to get this fire and you have to keep it. And I think about how Jesus gave these churches in Revelation these performance reviews. I've been thinking this week, what would Jesus say to New Hills Church? Like if Jesus were to give us a little bit of an evaluation today, what would Jesus say about the spiritual temperature of New Hills? Guys, here's my prayer. That we would be a church on fire. That's the church I want us to be. And I just wonder, what might God do through a people that are burning for Him? I want to find out. I want to see what God can do. And so New Hills, my challenge to us this year, let's light a fire for God. And let's see what He does. And guys, we're going to do something maybe a little bit different today as we respond, because there's a song we're going to sing. And it's one we've never done on a Sunday, and there's a reason why we've kind of held off on it. This is not a comfortable song. This is actually a song designed to get us out of our comfort zone, because it's a song all about the fire of God. It's a song about His majesty and His holiness. And what I'm hoping this song does for us is it gets a little heat going in our hearts. And I want to challenge us to use this song as an opportunity to ask God for this fire, to speak it over this church, and to ask Him to turn our collective temperature up. So I want to invite all of us to stand right now, and we're going to sing this song together.